Israel loves so much that they turned a soldier who admitted that he engaged in mass rape into a celebrity. Israel is truly a sick, barbaric society. An Israeli military unit was caught raping and torturing Palestinian men to death. Shortly afterwards, they was released from prison and cleared from all charges because Israelis engaged in massive pro demonstrations. I told you they was a sick society, man. They even brought on the Israeli soldier that was accused of on TV to defend the actions of his unit. That same person will later make a dramatic unmasking video declaring that he won't hide. Instead of being bullied out of proper society, this Israeli terrorist is being paraded on TV and being treated like a celebrity. I can't emphasize enough how sick these people are. Where are all the liberal feminists on this issue? Not only are Western liberals silent, the ones who are not are openly supporting this barbaric state. Here's Dana Bash on CNN with the worst age take of all time, claiming that Israeli soldiers don't.
15,000 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli airstrikes, 3/4 of whom are women and children.
And it's horrible, but you don't see Israeli soldiers.
Well, Dana, I think
Dana Bash and CNN still haven't issued a correction. The Western media is still ignoring this massive scandal that is coming out of Israel. People in the West are having a hard time reconciling the fact that all the lies they was told about Hamas was actually true of Israelis. The ADL and Zionist organizations are on a full-fledged assault against black influencers. The ADL is a disgusting pro-genocide organization that openly conflates anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. They masquerade as a civil rights organization, but they are actually the attack dog of Israel, advocating for the censorship of Americans who are critical of the Zionist regime. Candace Owens, in a long Twitter thread, laid out how the ADL essentially put out a hit on her, trying to ruin her career. Candace Owens is not even against the existence of Israel. She simply don't believe we should send weapons to a country that engaged in mass murder of children. Advocating that Israel stop murdering children makes you anti-Semitic according to the ADL. The ADL even went after yours truly, calling me an anti-Semite because I refuse to validate their psyop meant to rob Americans of their free speech. This is not new. The ADL has a long history of going after black people and black activists because they view us as a threat to their settler colonial project. You have very influential Zionists who openly admit that black people is a threat to Zionism.
The major problem of Israel is with the young generation of the black community. Black Lives Matter starts there.
Did you guys know the ADL targeted and surveilled black activists and organizations for simply calling for the police to divest and stop training with the ADL? Now the same organization is saying there's a surge of anti-Semitism because we had enough of their bullshit and we are starting to fight back.
What's poppin'? What's poppin', my friends, my family? What's good? We got another great episode of RBN Live for you guys on a Friday. It was a fantastic week. We have my brother James Fontroy join me today as well. What's poppin', my brother?
It's good to see you. It's good to have everybody here joining us today. It's a very special day to really get the juices flowing as far as policy is concerned. And we will actually be talking about policy, not like the other people who really shy away from policy, especially on their websites. So I am actually quite happy to be able to actually get into the meat of this conversation as well.
Our roundtable, if you guys missed it yesterday, it was so therapeutic. But James, you know that's our best content, right? You guys know that's our best content. Period. Whenever the RBN teams come together and form Voltron, make sure you guys check that out yesterday. and you guys see the intro, everything that was going on. You have the ADL and Zionist organizations that view us as a threat. JB, are they right or are they wrong? I think that's one of the few truths they actually tell. Because you goddamn right we're a threat. You're goddamn right. My main priority is to strip the baby killers in this country of all their power. The Zionist regime has made enemies, and what we need to do right now is form this massive anti-genocide coalition, which leads to our guest today, someone who is one of the leaders of this struggle, forming this anti-genocide coalition, who I got a chance to see again in Chicago. We had an amazing time talking to the amazing people in our community wanting to fight this imperial machine at our rally with Shama Sawant. The energy was just so infectious. It was great to be there. And I appreciate you inviting me, Dr. Joe Stein, our guest today and candidate for the Green Party. Thank you for joining us on RBN, Dr. Stein.
Thanks so much, Nick. And thank you, JB. It feels like we really are, a family here forged in the fires of fascism and genocide. And yeah, I mean, it really is all about this amazing energy that of this moment, this fight back, this fight for our lives and our humanity, and 2 million lives hanging in the balance in Gaza. And it just feels like this moment has been a long time in coming, where we stand up and we fight back against empire, oligarchy, fascism, and end stage capitalism. And it's all happening. And the critical ingredients are here. And they were there at that event with Shama. And it's really exciting. And RBN is a critical part of it. So really great to have you.
You guys are beating Democrats in lawsuits, forcing yourself on the ballot. We can talk about that very soon. I want to introduce your vice presidential choice, someone we will be introducing for the first time at RBN. I'm getting to know Dr. Butch Ware myself. I was on the call where you guys announced him, and he had a fantastic speech. And that's most of what I know of him. I wanted to have a proper introduction on RBN. I will continue to follow the messaging that he's put out. I just know one thing for goddamn sure. We have a white Jewish woman teaming with a black Muslim to destroy Zionism. I'm like, let's go. Welcome to RBN for the first time, Dr. Butch Ware.
Man, it is an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure to be with y'all. How's my sound?
It sounds good.
Because we are rolling through Dallas right now. I'm at the Islamic Society of North America conference in between meetings, but I did not want to miss this, so I am in the back seat riding around Dallas and happy to be joining you guys. And good to see you, Joe. And I love the fact that we did not plan this, but check us out, though. But check us out, though.
Color coordinated. Yeah,
exactly. We finished each other's sentences. So
yeah, I want to.
It feels like the spirit of Prince is upon us right now. So
I want to give Dr. Butch Ware a chance to properly introduce himself. Why do you think you are a good choice to be a vice president candidate as we are forming this anti-genocide coalition? What is your message to voters that will make them support you? I asked very vaguely. I would love to hear your thought process.
Yeah. So I heard two questions. First, why am I doing it? What do I bring to it? And then what is the message to voters? So I'm going to take those in reverse order, and you'll remind me back of the first one if I lose the first one. What's the message that we bring? What's the message that we bring to voters? The message that we bring to voters is that we can absolutely win this election. That the reality is that the Democratic Party is collapsing due to the corruption of AIPAC, the war machine, the neoliberal agenda. The right is completely falling apart under the forces of fascism. And while people are asking us, why are you throwing your vote away, voting green, we respond that it's actually quite the opposite. because of the absurdities of the Electoral College, and right, we as Greens want to abolish the Electoral College so that you can actually have one person, one vote. But because of the absurdities of the Electoral College, they're actually, if you play by their rules, there are only 4 or 5 states where your vote counts anyway, right? So in most of these supposedly red and blue states, you are giving your vote away every time and have no capacity to actually transform the system. So why not actually register your dissent and positively say, not only am I saying no to genocide, but I am actually going to commit to the creation of a third-party alternative that will allow us to actually fight back by returning power to the people. I just heard about a recent group of Muslims in Illinois. They've issued a public statement now where they are encouraging all Muslims in the state of Illinois to vote for the Green Party at the top of their ticket. In order to send a message, one, but also to allow us to consolidate the power that is needed to resist. And so the message that I'm saying is that you guys have been lied to, you've been gaslit, you've been deceived. They actually know how threatening this is. And that's the reason why they won't let Jill on the stage with Trump and Kamala. It's the reason why they won't give us our matching funds, is because they are in extremely fragile position. It doesn't look like it, but Muhammad Ali actually had Sonny Liston right where he wanted him the whole time. Your first question was about me, okay? And I'll use the Muhammad Ali reference as a way of introduction. I've been raised in the Black Muslim tradition, the Black radical tradition. Ali and Malcolm are heroes of mine. I converted to Islam and was brought into the Black radical tradition literally in one night. I read the autobiography of Malcolm X cover to cover when I was 15 years old. I read it in one night, and I went to the school library and I checked out an English translation of Quran. And I had converted to Islam before the end of the week. And within a couple of years, I was starting Pan-Africanist reading groups in my in my study circle. I was a 17-year-old high school graduate. We founded something called Africa's Progeny for Global Power when I was an undergraduate student. Revolutionary book list. And so this, for me, is in many ways like the fruition of a lifelong struggle to resist the forces of white supremacy, imperialism, and capitalism, and to restore power back to the people. Last thing that I'll say on this, before before my tag team partner tagged me in, before Jill tagged me in, I wasn't thinking nothing about no politics. I was going guns blazing on Zionism, white supremacy, fascist repression, cop cities, on Instagram, and I was teaching my students. I actually have written more than $1.5 million worth of academic grants and directed multi-year research programs across countries, right? I've been building spaces for activists and academics to interact. And if I had, I never would have volunteered for this job. But when called upon to enter into the struggle, I realized that in my most important academic works, I was writing about African Muslim scholars who were minding their business, teaching their students, and then the slave trade started to ravage their society. So they end up leading revolutions. This is the case of Usman Dan Fodio in northern Nigeria. It's the case of a scholar called Abdul Qadir Khan in Senegal. And you can learn about that if you watch Africa's Great Civilizations. I'm the principal narrator for much of Islamic Africa. I realized that the stories that I had been telling about these African Muslim scholars rising to the fight against imperialism and white supremacy in their times, that I had been written into the story that I had been telling. And so I'm not scared of this, and I'm ready to give them the fight of their lives. And I know that Jill is 10 toes down, my sister soldier, and like you said, a Black Muslim professor and a white Jewish doctor we're gonna shock the world, and we are gonna heal, and we are gonna educate, and we're gonna get the people free.
Yeah, it's the people who didn't like put their hand up, but were chosen for leadership, versus the empty vessels, who we will get to very soon, the Kamalas, the people who just read a script, who just want power. They're the people you should be afraid of. I want Dr. Stein to respond, and James, I'll pass it to you if you have any comments or anything you want to reflect on as well. So Dr. Stein, I'll pass to you very vaguely, anything you want to continue on. My core message was what the message that you guys will have to voters in this time we're in right now. So Dr. Stein, pass to you, and then we go James next.
I'll just say our conversation, as a ticket is new enough that I'm still like learning something every time we have a joint appearance. And I love hearing this, and this is why when one of our senior advisors, Mark Alborno, who's Gazan and, a very dedicated activist, and he basically had he knew about Butch, I think, from his other contacts, and then he had seen one Instagram live that Butch did. Butch, do you just want to say what the line was from that Instagram live?
Okay, yeah. So this is I guess what got us in trouble. Mark Alborno, who's actually happens to be the cousin of Laura Alborno, who is Gazan Girl on Instagram, and who's a close friend of mine actually, but they didn't know, they were not corresponding about this. Mark was watching the video where I said, after they did the Kamala coronation, I said, there is no amount of black girl magic that's going to make me cool with genocide. There's no amount of girl boss. There's no amount of black pride that is going to make it okay to decimate 1/10 of the population of Gaza and send the rest scattering like animals. There's no amount of weaponization of cosplay blackness that is going to make me co-sign for this. And then the other one that I said was, I said, Kamala is to politics what Drake is to hip hop. She come through Atlanta when she need a few dollars. She ain't a colleague, she's a colonizer. Okay, and that's what they did with that rally down in Atlanta, is that they came through and threw a booty shaking party and raised some money. They did. That's what they did. And don't get me wrong. I'm not a judgmental person like that. I get it. I get what you're saying. I don't have a problem with people going out and having fun. One of my favorite academic books is by Tara Hunter called "To Joy My Freedom," and it's about how after slavery, like black women are opening nightclubs, going out to clubs, because what's the point of having freedom if you can't enjoy it? You're supposed to enjoy your freedom, but that's not what that was. What that was the weaponization of our culture against us. To make us complicit in the genocide against others. And I'm gonna say this, Dr. Jill hasn't heard me say this yet, but this is something that I'm saying to Muslims specifically here in ISNA, is like, do you understand the cosmic echo that will be left if you write your name down as an affirmative endorsement and affirmation of this genocide? If you are a person that believes in God as I do, you are risking eternal damnation. If you are not a person that believes in God, you are going down in history as the same kind of monsters that shoveled children into gas chambers in the years shortly before my running mate was born. This is of utmost moral significance.
I love the energy that you're bringing, and I'll pass it to Stein so you can finish your thought. But I will double down on what you said, because I was talking about this with my brother Nico House, my hotspot brother. Big shout out to him. In Rome yesterday, when you saw Democrat events, you had I'm not good with pop culture. I know Megan Thee Stallion, the horse lady or whatever. You had her twerking on stage.
That's what I'm talking about.
When you have Democrats talking about Asian issues. Do they have Lucy Liu on the stage shaking her ass? Whenever
they take you for a joke, and they're telling you that they take you for a joke. They think that you're simple, and that if you just throw a party, then you're going to be like, okay, vibes. And you know what? To this point, they've been getting away with it, but that's about to change, because we're going straight from this show in a week to do Breakfast Club. Okay, and
shit.
Yeah, exactly. So look, what they say? They're gonna learn today. Go ahead,
Stein. I want you to finish your thoughts, and then James, I'll get you in there, brother.
So my thoughts are all over the place about this, but for one thing, like the intro video that you played about the barbarity of Israel and what's being revealed now, in this expose about the torture of healthcare providers. It's like, it just doesn't get much worse than what they're doing, and kind of gang raping people with rifles, and it's like the height of barbarity. It's like you can't talk about it enough. what incredibly depraved and extremely sick psychopaths these are who are administering this genocide. It kind of goes without saying. So there's that, and that has to be brought to bear. I mean, this is what people are voting for. If you vote for Kamala, this is what you're for. If you're for genocide, if you are for absolute, rape and torture and murder of children, then just know it. If you're going to vote for it, okay. If you support it, vote for it. If you don't support it, don't vote for it. Don't be talked out of your humanity. Don't be talked into genocide. And it's like the intensity of that message that we are, in the process of driving home. And it's not just the message, it's also the organizing. And one of the main reasons that Mark Alborno, got us together, initially we really wanted to have someone who's deeply connected to genocide so that we can really leverage the moral imperative of the moment here. So that's kind of what we were on the lookout for, to bring someone with that energy at a time that the Arab American and Muslim American community is on fire because they have been living empire. For the last 20 years, up close and personal, they've been living empire. So that community just seemed like this is an ally that is ready to be mobilized and to be fighting back and leading the charge, really leading the political rebellion, from the point of view of a people who have been the victim of empire here, starting back the post 9/11 wars. So that seemed really awesome. And then we kind of had this wake up moment that, well, it's not only, in fact, it was Ajamu and I were talking about strategy and why we were looking for someone connected to genocide, and that the Arab American community seemed really primed for the uprising, and not just for the uprising, but to help lead the uprising. And Ajamu made the point, well, you know what? There's an awful lot of us in the Black community too, who are really ready for the uprising now and, have had it. And that's kind of where we are, that there is this uprising in full swing, and there are two communities. There's more than two, but in particular, there are two really powerhouse communities right now that are ready to help lead this battle. And, and that's kind of where it just seemed so almost foretold that we encountered Butch, who sort of fell like manna from heaven here, and can kind of unify these two groups together with, progressives, radicals, anti-capitalist, anti-genocide, anti-war, climate emergency, pro-worker community. So when Butch says, hey, we could win this election, it's actually true. If democracy was a thing, 1 out of every 3 eligible voters, did not vote in 2020. And that's a hell of a lot of people who are non-voters. They are young, of color, and what's the third? Young, of color, and I don't remember the third criterion, but sort of the radical youth that our agenda very much speaks to. So it's not just the anti-genocide, anti-war piece. It's also that we damn well need healthcare as a human right now for everyone. We need rent control for everyone. We need a $25 an hour minimum wage. We need the right to a job and free public higher education and a bailout from student debt and medical debt. And it's like, so this agenda helps unify this powerhouse coalition. And however far we get, whether it's 5% and we qualify for a whole lot of funding next election, or it's more than that, whatever, or even if it's less than that, it doesn't matter. The point is to have fought as hard as we can with the cards that were dealt in this moment of just, all out emergency, climate emergency, labor emergency. It's an emergency in every dimension of our lives. And it just feels like the time is so right to do this. And we're really excited to make it happen. Yeah, over to you, JB.
Yeah, as much as I want to add, I want to make sure my brother, James, get in the conversation. Feel free to ask any questions or any insight you may have, my brother. Go ahead.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to bring up, when it comes to meeting the moment, people like Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are not meeting the moment because their moment is just vibes. And I said this before, but vibes does not help me pay my rent. Vibes does not help me pay my electric bill. Vibes does not resurrect the people like Sensei Reed or like Noah Bush or these young Black kids that are constantly being killed in the streets because of what police are doing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Vibes is not going to, it's not going to relieve my student loan debt. If you do have student loan debt, Vibes isn't going to give you a living wage, and Vibes isn't going to help you, own the means of production via a worker cooperative, right? Vibes is not going to be doing any of these things because ultimately it's not about a feeling, it's about an action. And I talked about this yesterday because that's what people like, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are about. They just want you to feel good. But the thing is like, it's not about the feeling. It's just, I liken it to eating McDonald's every day. And I'm using McDonald's as an example because they're also in line with the Zionists. So you know how crappy they are. But the issue is that if you eat it every single day, then what ends up happening to you? The taste may be good, right? But there's no real good substance in there for you. And the thing is that that's what we're looking for is substance. We're looking for the policies. One of my questions is everybody always asks, well, why did those of us who were, for Bernie, why do we like Bernie Sanders so much? He was a curmudgeon old man that gave this face of get off my lawn. You know why we actually liked him? It was the policies that he had that actually made him appealing to us. We didn't care about anything else but the policies. And so when it comes to a lot of what people like Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, what they exhibit, what they project, really is either going to be projecting just joy, just vibes, or it's going to be the air of, oh, well, these people who are coming across our border are taking over our country, and so they're the issue, or these Black people are the issue, or these people who dress in a way that is not according to gender, they're the issue. When in reality, the people who are really the issue are the ones that are wearing $5,000 Italian suits and they're telling you, oh, that's your enemy. And so I think one of the best ways to do it is not just walking away from duopoly, but I think what you're doing, Dr. Stein and Dr. Ware, what you guys are doing is basically putting into the ether a mentality of, okay, here are the policies that will actually help us, and we have to save ourselves, right? And I don't mean to use you in a derogatory way, but using you both as a tool to say, look, this is what we could have. These are the people who are trying to get us out of the way. Let's go into a different direction. So I just wanted to say that.
Hear, hear.
Well said. I will pass it to Dr. Stein, Dr. Butch Ware. Anything you guys want to add? And I have another question I want to ask you guys. I'll pass the floor to you guys.
After you, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, I think James kind of gets to the heart of the matter, which is that we really need to address the material conditions of people's lives, which are in crisis, whether you're looking at our jobs, our healthcare, half of Americans are seriously economically stressed trying to pay their rent. What does Kamala Harris have to say about that? Oh, she came up with one of maybe a handful of policies that there will be like a tax credit, a $25,000 tax credit towards your down payment. Well, how many people are in that position, where they've got $25,000 worth of
what are we even talking about, right? I mean,
yeah, really. I mean, her responses are so out there in the ether. But to James's point, people are in crisis and they really need solutions now. And they need to know that these solutions, they have names, they have costs, which are actually affordable. There's a strategy to implement them, and we could go into great length about what is our agenda. What are we going to do on day one, in fact, and I'll just say the first thing we do on day one, of course, is pick up the phone and tell Bibi Netanyahu that his war is over. It's all done, and that weapons embargo is here now. Weapons and economic embargo, everything, we are pulling out all the stops, and this genocide is over immediately. So that's one thing that we do, but we go on from there. We declare a climate emergency, and we unleash over $500 billion every year to create jobs, good jobs. It's not a question of jobs or the climate or our water supply, or our food supply. It's actually both. We have jobs and we rescue the environment while we guarantee that no worker is left behind. No worker is left in the lurch here and loses their job because they happen to be working for fossil fuels or the military, for that matter. We move people over. So we've got solutions that we can put on the table right now, like rent control. How much does rent control cost us? Actually, nothing. It can be implemented immediately. And then, we also rein in the private equity, which is buying up our housing and driving up the price. So that's over. This gentrification by private equity. We implement a tenant's bill of rights, so you cannot be evicted, so that your landlord can raise the rent and gentrify your neighborhood. That's over. I mean, there's so many solutions that are here and which already have massive public support, including Medicare for all, which we also propose and begin promoting on day one. We take the media to court in an antitrust lawsuit against the corporatized consolidated media, so that we can actually break up media to be more in the model of the RBN model, independent media that actually tells the truth, that is a watchdog, not a lapdog. There are many things that we can do, even without the support of Congress. Just if we were to get into the White House, there would be no problem making this stuff happen. And just for people to know that, to know, number one, as Frederick Douglass said, power concedes nothing without a demand. We have to be that demand. Don't let them talk you out of that demand. That demand is not discretionary. That demand is absolutely critical to any kind of positive change. And number two, is Alice Walker, the biggest way people give up power is by not knowing we have it to start with. I was just flabbergasted today because I hadn't seen this poll, this YouGov poll that was done earlier in the summer, actually, showing that well over 60% of Americans already support a weapons boycott. And that's taking.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
I mean, who knew, from the way Congress pretends that's a really fringe thing to do. No, it's actually what everybody supports. It's like 75% of African Americans, 77% of Democrats, people under 30, and then all comers, it's well over 60%. So for people to know that we actually have the power, we have the solutions, we have a strategy, we can profoundly change our future and our current moment just by using the power that we already have. These solutions are within our reach and can transform our lives if we even just implemented one of them. But there are at least 5 or 6 major transformational programs that we can implement and start implementing actually on day one. So for people to know that, for young people to know that they can be bailed out of debt, they can be totally bailed out of debt, and higher education is free. That can actually start happening on well, that'll be more complicated than day one, but that is within our reach too. Yep. And people can be mobilized, and there are lots of people who have already basically, completely rejected the parties of war on Wall Street and are ready to go if they have, if you don't smell like a rat, and people can smell a rat. They don't have to be experts or policy wonks. If you're not a rat and you're talking compelling common sense, people can be mobilized, even in the short, 2 months or so that's left. we could transform the political landscape. And whether
Yep.
we win the office or we just win the day by establishing a coalition that's here for the long haul, because genocide and empire and fascism are here for the long haul. And we need a united front to fight back in the street, but also to fight back in the halls of power. So, you know,
Yeah.
it's a transformational moment. Over to you.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Butch.
well, so this is so beautiful, right? Because Dr. Jill is talking about you can win the issue without necessarily winning the vote. But just to be clear about this, if they let her on stage to talk through policy in those kinds of lucid terms against Kamala and Trump, we will win the election. Because so they say in Senegal is where I did my field research. I speak the Wolof language fluently. It's the vernacular language, and the French language, which is the archival language. And they say, Domo Adama Dofu, the child of Adam is not stupid. If you show them a good thing, they'll want to embrace it. And they also say that the child of Adam does not release what their hand is holding until they reach for something better. We have not shown them something better. We just have two different bad options. When you start talking from the stage about this positive social policy, right, that gives people what they need, that takes care of social housing, that gives you Medicare, that helps rebuild our infrastructure, right, that treats America's drug epidemic not as an opportunity to get free labor so that inmates can pre-make your biscuits for 15 cents an hour, right? But as a public health crisis that needs to be treated with public health. As Jill has pointed out in multiple interviews, as soon as you do that, which is just about caring for the American people, then in one fell swoop, you also disempower the cartels in Central America because they're no longer warring factions over a controlled substance. If you put policies in place that actually serve the American people, then the people are going to respond to that. And when they see her up on the stage saying that, they're going to see it. There's also a direct relationship between the international themes, which opened this interview, focus on Palestine, and the positive domestic agenda, which is that if you're not blowing 60% of your dough blowing kids up in their sleep, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you can do for the American people. And at our first campaign event, where Jill had to zoom in as a disembodied head because she was recovering from COVID, I talked about this. It's basically like an abuser, and the abuser says, "I'm sorry, baby. I know we didn't get you that health care that I promised you, and I know I spent all the money on guns and ammo, but I promise, baby, this time it's going to be different. This time I'm going to get you what you need." And you don't want to go out there because those people, they can never love you like I love you. And America is literally in like an abusive relationship, being gaslit, because the truth is that neither of those parties is giving Americans anything that they need. All they are doing is motivating through fear. What we will do, if they let us anywhere near that stage, is to motivate the American people through hope. Because believe it or not, it does not have to be this way. There is more than enough resources and abundance. Scarcity isn't real, oppression is. And if we end the oppression, then we have abundance. And that was when I interviewed Dr. Jill. That's the vision that I saw. That's why I said yes.
And if I could jump in to just add one thing real quick, which is that we're now moving out of the ballot access drive phase of the campaign, and we're moving into basically, voter outreach and education. And the name of the game here now becomes organizing 101. It's all about phone banking, door knocking, flyering. It's about getting the message out in our communities. So in part, they control access to the microphone. They control access to mainstream media and debates and all that. And we're not likely to get it. And that's a badge of honor, that they consider us that dangerous. They will cover Cornel West, I must say, but they will not cover an actual established, and no diss to Cornel West, who has a powerful message and I respect very much, but he is a solo, he's a solo act, and he doesn't have, a decentralized organization in just about every state. people who fought this battle before, who are used to, the struggle of running elections. So we are, a force to contend with and a threat to empire, because we will be on the ballot actually in just about every state now. That is coming clear. We are winning our battles against the Democratic Party and their lawfare. We've been able to beat them back in several states. So we are going to have ballot access in just, well, it'll probably be 40 states where we have ballot lines, and another 8 states where we actually have write-in, we're legitimate write-in campaigns. So we're going to be a choice, an anti-genocide, pro-worker, climate emergency choice for just about every voter across the country. That makes us a real threat, to empire. You can't threaten empire unless you're pretty much across the country. And being on the ballot for just about all voters does give us a fighting chance, and we'll be pushing out as much as we can through media. But at the end of the day, this is a grassroots effort, and this is about us making it happen. And I want to put in a plug. Go to JillStein2024.com and sign up to volunteer, sign up to get the word out, sign up to mobilize and empower your community, make this happen. Because if that word starts to get out, and it's a very dangerous word as far as the, as empire is concerned, this is the challenge that they've been pulling out all the stops to try to block. As that word starts to get out, we could see things change, especially, as the I want to say Obama bubble, it's the Kamala bubble.
Yeah, we're going to get to her very soon.
Yeah, it is breaking right now with her first, appearance. It's definitely, falling apart, especially the illusion that she was going to do something different about genocide in Gaza. That's over and done with right now. So, the momentum is going to build in a really big way. So I encourage people to seize the moment. We need to fight like our lives depend on it, and they really do.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you guys very soon to respond to Kamala's insane interview. She gave one of the craziest speeches I ever heard in my life. That people say was joyful. Where she essentially promised never-ending war. She promised to expand never-ending war, and the DNC platform essentially called Trump a pussy on Iran. The guy who assassinated General Soleimani.
Yeah.
The message of the Kamala campaign is saying that Trump was too soft on Iran.
Yeah.
They're running like psychopaths. So we'll get to that very soon. I do want to give shout out to my friends. You guys saw the intro video that I had at the beginning. Big shout out to Hotspot, the group Nico House is working on. They do a fantastic anti-imperialist work. They help edit my videos. They had a question for you, Dr. Stein. And I want to make sure I get their question in, because they do once again fantastic work at Hotspot. At Hotspot, they wanted to ask you to discuss the two-party duopoly system and how it's rigged against third parties. Discuss the general nature of the rigged two-party structure, because they have criticisms, for example, of Venezuela. They say Venezuela and Nicolas Maduro is a tyrant, that they don't have a real democracy. Do you guys know in Venezuela they had 6 people on the ballot running against Nicolas Maduro? You have liberals who love to talk about France and take credit for the victory that the left in France got, that Emmanuel Macron is now honoring. But that was a multi-party system where the left won because they was able to form a massive coalition on the new front. I think it was the New Popular Front Party, I think they called it in France. But in France, multi-party, even in countries I deem to be generally fascist, like many of the Western European countries, have multiple party systems. So what Hotspot wanted to ask you, Dr. Stein, and Dr. Butch, I can include you in this as well. I just want you guys to discuss the general nature of the rigged two-party system and why we must resist this. I'll pass to Dr. Stein first, and then I get Dr. Butch Ware in here.
So, it's a very, very rigged system, but at the same time, we don't have to vote within it, and we do have other parties. We have to fight like hell to be an option, for people and to have ballot status, but we have that. So people don't have to be constrained by it. And let me say, I think the biggest rigging is a psyop. It's a psychological operation that tells people that you're throwing away your vote if you actually vote on behalf of your own interests. So just remember that while it is incredibly rigged in specifics, still that choice is ours. And we could overturn this election if we wanted. And if people can largely break that psychological stranglehold that tells you you can't, you don't dare stand up and vote for your health care, for social housing, for rent control, for a $25 an hour minimum wage, for an end to genocide. How dare you consider voting on behalf of your own concerns? The Democrats own your vote, or it may be Republicans, but one of the two parties owns your vote, as opposed to having to earn your vote. And, we try to remind people that no one owns your vote. You own your vote, and it is your power in a democracy. It is our only power, especially in a democracy which is hijacked by mountains of big money. And that money gets bigger by the hour. We saw that money in the upper ring at the DNC, the ring of corporate suites, which began at a cost of $500,000 and went up to several $1 million per suite. That's where the power is. Very hard to overcome that. And that's only getting worse by the day, practically. Now you can use this thing called victory funds, and a single donor can write a check for $1 million. And wield enormous influence within the party. That's why it's really predetermined that Kamala Harris is basically just going to preserve the policies of Biden. She has more billionaire donors to her campaign than any other in history. So to summarize, it's the power of money. It's the stranglehold of big money. It is ballot access, which keeps your choices off the ballot, because the Democrats and the Republicans although the Democrats are definitely worse on this than the Republicans in terms of throwing off their competition, because they don't think they can compete with us in the court of public opinion. And then there's the smear campaigns and the fear campaigns. There's the media blackouts. And again, it's this first past the post voting system that essentially denies us real choice and forces people into these two pigeonholes. So those are some of the ways that, that our elections are rigged. But at the end of the day, it's more a psyop than anything. And if people have their eyes and their ears open and are watching RBN, and they know what their choices are, we could break the chains in this election immediately. Still, let me say there are specific reforms, public funding of our elections. We passed it in Massachusetts. The Democratic Party, the Progressive Democrats, repealed it on a voice vote. This is what convinced me I would never have anything to do with the Democratic Party. This is back in the year 2000. But there's a fix. Likewise, we can change the ballot access rules and make it very reasonable and common sense. We can enact ranked choice voting, which lets you rank your choices, and it completely gets rid of this kind of two-party spoiler, lesser evil system. There are solutions which are simple and affordable, but which the Democrats, as well as the Republicans, but especially the Democrats, don't want you to know about, because they are very threatened that if they cannot fear campaign and smear campaign, that they will lose their power, because they are serving the interests of war and Wall Street and not everyday voters. Let me pass it over to you. Butch, do you have anything you want to add there on the riggedness?
About the two-party, the general question, just to remind you about the two-party duopoly, but go ahead.
Yeah. No, that was what I wanted to drill down on, actually. So I made a social media post some time back where I said, whether you vote red or blue, militarized fascism wins. Okay. And the reason is that both of these parties are now wholly owned subsidiaries of the 1%. It's just that there are competing factions within the 1% about who will have control over the levers of power at any given time. On one side, you have Christian white nationalists that are really, interested in controlling the right-wing narrative. There are other interest groups, and those are fueling a culture war, okay? A culture war, which frankly, I find wholly uninteresting, right? that
Yeah.
I find it wholly uninteresting and completely unrelated to like anything that is substantive. Um, and all it is it's basically trying to get you to believe that politics is what Malcolm called it, a game of football, right? That it's just back and forth, up and down the field between these two parties, so that no one is ever allowed onto the field to challenge those two parties. And while I fully and wholeheartedly agree with my sister soldier, Dr. Jill Stein, that this is going to be a revolution that is led by organizers and but it's also going to be like a technological revolution, right? When we start talking about the way that you can use, for example, targeted advertising that creates lookalike communities, not to get more donors or to get more money or to get more followers for your Instagram page, but to send people right to where they can register to vote, just for example, right? When you start to think about how we can get the TikTok generation mobilized by having collaborative invitations where 5 different influencers are going to the polls and going through neighborhoods and getting people registered, we are going to turn out this 18 to 29 generation in a way that has never been turned out before. So while I agree that there is a struggle that can be won on the ground, I also believe that if they ever let us on the air, my sister is going to go up on stage catching bodies, because what she's going to see, she's going to say, look, she's going to say, we're here, we Greens, we are actually in the middle, in the center with the American people. We stand for the American people. Over there on the extreme right, you have Team Blue. Okay, neoliberal corporate fascists that send pigs to your campuses to beat up kids. All the way over, still further, you have the extreme fascists. They literally just want to shut down the experiment that is democracy altogether. The truth of the matter is that when people see the platform of the Greens, they're going to realize that this is a platform that everybody can respond to, not just leftists, because that's what I was interested in when I was listening to Huey P. Newton and to Bobby Seale. They had an argument that was for working class white Americans. They could tell you that the man had his foot on your neck just like he got it on my neck, and we can all get free together. That is what's coming. And if they ever let me on that stage with JD Vance and Tim Walz, come on, man, come on. And this is the reason why, to go back to something that Dr. Jill said earlier about Kamala, and to what you guys pointed to with Kamala, these are, let me measure my words. These are profoundly mediocre political candidates. They are not good at anything at all. And the reason is because they've never had to be. That privilege, whether it's racial privilege or class privilege, or the privilege of essentially owning votes in this country and having all the levers of power with which you can force out third-party contenders, means you don't have to be any good at anything. And if we ever get up on that stage, the American people are not that stupid. The American people are smart. They're going to see that these are people that are talking about policy, that know what they're talking about, that are committed and not for sale. We don't accept corporate contributions. We don't accept PACs. We don't accept victory funds. We are not for sale. And in the Islamic tradition, the way that we express it is this: if you were to put the sun in my right hand and the moon in my left, I would not bow down to these fascists. So we are here to break this duopoly. And whether that happens with 5% or 15%, or we happen to catch Sonny Liston on the chin and knock that sucker out in round 1, that's what we're here to do.
Yeah, well, very well said. Well, what I'm gonna do, James, I'm gonna give you a chance to ask another question. Well, because I know you guys have to go soon. This hour flew by. It's crazy how fast this hour flew by. We have a mountain of questions we're not gonna get to. But what I want to do a few quick rapid fire. So, I'll pass it to both Dr. Butch Ware and Joe Stein for any quick rapid fire answers. I'm gonna go first because it's a follow up based on what I just asked, and then James, You can ask them another quick rapid fire question because we don't want to take too much of their time. I know you guys got a lot of events today.
We have a hard out at 3, actually.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you this quickly here because we're discussing the rigged two-party duopoly. If I had any critique of Green Party messaging, is that they tend to concede to the spoiler psyop, where instead of saying that we should be spoiling the Democrats, there's an explanation that we're not. So I'm gonna make it quick because we run a long time. But what is your message to Trump supporters, to Kamala supporters, the people from the duopoly we want to peel away? I gotta make it very quick, very vague, and we can wrap it up here. So, sorry, James, we're trying to
May I just break a protocol because my battery might die? So normally I would go to Jill first, but I'm just going to get a quick word in because I actually have to log off and my battery's dying. I absolutely think that the Bernie Trump voters are in play. And I think that there's a reason for this, is that there is a working class appeal to be made to ordinary people, especially if you are not involved in the culture wars of what the so-called left and the so-called right, which really are not neither that. They're liberals and conservatives. If you're not involved with that, because I think that we're going to get a lot of blacks for Trump. I think that when we tell small business owners that we can cut your taxes because we're not going to take your money and bomb kids in their sleep with it, that we are actually going to get a lot of people from not just the uncommitted and the independents, but actually people from the conservative movement. Listen, they never saw this coming, right? Jill tagged me in late, and this combination is dynamic and powerful under this fierce, seasoned queen of a leader. We are ready to do this. We are ready to do this. We are ready to do this.
Dr. Stein, any last comments you have? James, I'm sorry that we couldn't get another question, but Dr. Stein, is there any other last comment?
I would just add, a lot of Bernie supporters, went over to Trump, and I want to convey to Trump supporters that, we hear your pain, and we also think the Democrats are, absolutely toxic. And you don't have to go to more betrayal, because Trump isn't actually promising anything. He's just not a Democrat. So we can be not a Democrat and actually, meet the needs of working people who've been thrown under the bus and, whose jobs have been offshored and who've just been abused by this abusive political relationship. So I think, absolutely, as Butch said, there's a real way to reach out and connect with Trump voters. They're definitely in play. And the other thing I would just say is that the Democrats have spoiled it for themselves, and I don't like taking the heat for them. I don't like playing into that, we spoiled it for them. I really don't care about that. We have a right to our votes, but I want it really clear that the Democrats spoiled it for themselves. They had the biggest election losses in 2010, 1,000 seats in state legislatures, 64 in the Congress, et cetera. There was no third party to blame it on. Democrats have spoiled it for themselves because they threw working people on the bus, and they're all about Wall Street and the war machine. So that's who they are. And I think the more we, just like relentlessly hammer that home, the better off we are. So
we appreciate your time. We definitely got to do this again, maybe in a few weeks.
Let's do it.
And I know our community would love to hear from you guys. So we appreciate you guys for joining. I'm gonna pop you guys in the back. We definitely got to do this again here very soon. Thanks for joining. Make sure you guys check out the Green Party platform, which I was going to ask about, but that conversation flew by. You guys hear me rant all the time. That's why my mindset was I want you guys to hear from them. I wanted them to go off. You guys hear from me all the time, so I was like, well, let them go off. I do apologize. I couldn't get to some super chat questions, but they're gonna be back. We're in community with Dr. Stein and Dr. Butch Ware, so we will get this question answers. And I'm sorry, James, I couldn't get you in. I know you had another question, but hey, this conversation I think was enjoyable for the audience. I think there was a lot of good information. Let's read some super chats. Anything you want to add, James? Any final thoughts? Anything else you want to? Anything just on your mind before we continue?
Yeah, one of the things that and this was kind of pertaining to the question I was going to ask them, but I wanted to highlight some of the policy platform positions that they have, because the thing is, it's like a lot of times people ask the question, what is in it for me? And I'm going to be very blunt and honest. There are some Americans who do not care about what's going on in Gaza. They just don't. And that's the reality. And some people are going to want to know, what are you going to do for me? And how is this going to help me? And the good part about somebody like Dr. Stein is that she has an amazing, great comprehensive platform that encompasses many different facets of our lives that I would like to see her more hit home on. And I was going to talk about some of the things, like, for instance, did you know there was a platform position about the banks, about too big to fail banks, giving, taking those and putting those under public ownership as public utilities. And then, having that so that we don't end up in a 2008 situation again. Or it's guaranteeing free childcare so that people who are parents have their childcare without having to worry about missing work, or strengthening Social Security and removing the cap on Social Security, things like that. Free high-speed internet across the United States, with U.S. rural broadband. So these are just some of the things that I wanted to get to, because it is really something that I think would, that you don't get with people like Donald Trump or Kamala Harris. And so I think that, once we get the hone on those, then because it's like with Bernie Sanders, everybody was focused more on the policies than the person.
Yeah, and we will have him back on RBN. We're used to doing long streams, but 1 hour is good. I think there's a lot discussed there. Still a few things I wanted to discuss. I wanted to ask about the strategy about for recruiting Trump supporters and Kamala supporters. So obviously our focus should be on the non-voters, but we want to destroy the duopoly. We want the Democrats on our side. So I tried to rush that in last second. I didn't get it as well articulated as I want. And I think this is our friend Pasta from Convo Couch. Dr. Stein actually wrote an answer to this in the private chat that she will confirm. Like, as we was signing off here, she had to go. So this is what she said in the chat, guys. This is what she said. She says, I agree with a ban on gain of function and a commission on day one to explore the lab leak origin. So that's good to hear. That's good to hear. I press and I asked Joe Stein about mandates, because I think as a leftist, that's extremely important. We cannot support big pharma mandates causing the working class to lose their job because they don't want to take experimental vaccines. People in my ordinary life knows that fucking crazy. The only people who didn't think that was crazy are brain dead Democrats who watch CNN and MSNBC and worship to the altar of Dr. Fauci. Like, that's such an insane position to take. So unlike Howie Hawkins, who did support mandates, I asked Howie Hawkins this on the show. I said to Howie Hawkins, if there was a single mother with 2 kids who didn't want to take the vaccine, will you want her to be fired? I don't give a fuck. All right, fuck you then. Like, there's something legitimately wrong with you if that's your position. And I think that's the socialist position to take. I'm glad that they took that. And this is a good question. I didn't read it. Sorry. I read it. I didn't read it anyway. Here's the super chat I didn't read from Pasta. I skimmed it earlier. Hello, Dr. Stein. I realize there's a lot of differences between your campaign and vaccine skeptics, but are you at least willing to meet us halfway and call for a ban on gain of function on day one? And this is another problem with Howie Hawkins. I'm not saying Stein is perfect on COVID. I'm not saying that at all. But the Howie Hawkins wing hurt the Green Party so much, fam. And Jill Stein, we talked about this before, how much Howie Hawkins and that wing of the Green Party hurt the image of the Green Party, because they was all in on the COVID authoritarian policies. And Jill Stein still gets attacked for that for this day, even though Jill Stein was never supportive of the Green Party authoritarian COVID agenda. So it's something that she will have to answer to. I'm not trying to cover for her. Like, she will have to answer for her party getting that wrong. But trust me, guys, that was the Howie Hawkins wing being horrible. Like, Jill Stein is for banning gain of function. and against mandates. And to me, that's the most important thing to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
I know you want to. We kind of have to be careful what the talk about the pandemic and stuff like that, because of course, you know, the tube will try to take us down. So, you know, I appreciate the question, but we have to be very, very careful about that.
That's why I tend to avoid it on YouTube. But
yeah,
I think we're safe on that. Let me read a few more. Actually, JB, do you want to read some super chats? I know I've been talking a lot. Do you want to do it?
Yeah, just as a notation for anybody that was asking in regards to Jimmy Dore, her campaign manager Jason Call said they publicly agreed to go on Jimmy's show. He has the email and he can set it up, so they already have publicly acknowledged that they can do that. So Mark Pugsley says they are criminalizing the word Zionist. Why don't they criminalize the word AIPAC while they're at?
Oh, they going to. They got mad when I was using AIPAC as a slur. Because I use AIPAC as a slur. And they was like, see, now they're using AIPAC as a slur. Yeah, because AIPAC is not just a singular organization. You guys know that, right? AIPAC has 3 million donors strong of traitors to this country. That they don't donate money to mutual aid, JB. They don't donate the money to feed Americans. They don't donate money to get school supplies, healthcare to American people. They spend their money in order to lobby politicians to support a genocidal apartheid state. Tell me these people are not the biggest traitors in the history of this country. We have people with medical debt. They're not raising money for that. They're not raising money for the homeless. They raise money to buy politicians for Israel. They are traitors, and you goddamn right I'm going to use AIPAC as a slur. That is me. Go ahead, JB.
So the next one is, will Stein Ware move to ban the further development of AI as experts are warning about mass job loss and possible human extinction? You know, my thing is, and that will be a good question to ask him, but from my perspective, I honestly do not think there's anything wrong with AI. It's how it's used. Because the thing is, like, it's like, because a lot of people, they fear monger about automation. Thing is, automation in itself isn't bad if it actually serves all the people. The problem is that we have automation that's serving only the rich and the powerful, you know. And so when it comes to automation, I don't fear automation as an entity. It's just like, depending on who's holding the knife, I'll be scared. If there's an actor holding the knife, I'm gonna be scared. But if it's a chef holding the knife, I'm not gonna be scared because I know the chef is going to use the knife for a useful purpose, right? So it's the same thing with AI. I see it as a tool, but depending on who wields it, that's what makes it dangerous.
The capitalists are worried that AI is going to render their stupid and poorly planned society even more useless. There's a ton of these PLC jobs that they worry that AI may take over. Maybe we should change the means of production and how people are accommodated for their labor. If we have AI that is doing a lot of stuff that humans used to do, then that means society can reap the reward for that. And maybe people have more time to pursue things that they're actually interested of. We can nationalize that industry and give the funds and the resources to the people, the money made from AI, instead of doing the jobs that we need to do. So that's my position. I see a lot of capitalists like melting down because they're realizing AI is going to make their model pretty much incomplete. It's gonna show that this central planning model is not really needed. Under our system, in the dictatorship of the proletariat, we will master the benefits of AI. And if you lose your job from AI, we still got you. You know what I mean? If your job was replaced by AI, then good. We can get. I'm down for UBIs at that point. You know what I mean? Then we don't have to be slave robots. But to be clear, I'm not an expert on AI, so I'm not going to pretend I am. I don't do many segments about AI, so I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert. So go ahead, JB.
Well, just to add to your point, I mean, there is also a policy on Dr. Stein's platform about a federal jobs guarantee, right? So if in case you were to somehow lose your job, against AI, there's a federal jobs guarantee, meaning that the government will give you a job and you can work in that job until you find something better in the private sector, right? Or, if by private sector, even better if it's like a worker co-op, but and of course you'll be making a living wage and you won't ever have to go on unemployment, which means you're still working and you're still making enough money to thrive, but at the same time, you're not left out to dry because of AI. You know what I'm saying? So are contingencies in place in the policy platform that I think is also important to point out too.
Yeah, well said, JB.
Yeah,
I need to look more into AI. I will admit I probably need to look more into it. But under socialism adapts. Capitalism sells labor for commodity. That's why they have to ban stuff that's a threat to it. Hopefully that makes sense. I will admit that I'm not like an expert in it, but go ahead, JB.
Yeah, of course. Black Lyron says, so true. American political leadership is an abusive relationship.
Yeah,
that's true. Just making sure that I didn't miss any of the other super chats. But and one of the things I also really want Dr. Stein to hammer home on is, as they go into campaigning in different areas, go to the hood. Please go to the hood and talk. One of the first things you talk about is reparations. That's one of the first things you talk about.
I wanted to ask about their Black agenda. I wanted them to talk about it. We didn't have time. Their Black agenda is winning over even like more liberal-minded Adolf people. I even seen them like, holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
Jill Stein has killed it with the reparations. So yeah, that's a great suggestion, JB. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And it's based on, and her reparations plan is based on lineage, right? It's lineage based. And the thing is, it's like, of course, talking about the carceral system, there's so many different things that we need to touch on. And so when they come back, I would love to have this conversation, but especially about the Black agenda, and also how Dr. Ware kind of influences that policy position as well as a Black man in the United States. I think that's all really important.
The JB and Savvy show. Maybe next time we try to schedule them on the Savvy and JB show. I talk to Jill Stein all the time, so I think it'd be good to have her on.
I'm rambling, but that's basically one of the things I wanted to talk about too, and I think that will be a really productive conversation as well.
Yes, I think that what I'm gonna try to see maybe in a few weeks, give them some time to do some other events. Maybe in a few weeks have them on Savvy and JB show, so you and Savvy can ask some questions. Yeah. I have a ton of questions. I already knew I wasn't gonna get to all of them, but I think it was a good conversation. It was a breeze. So I think we caught up on super chats, right? You want to shout out the Patreon?
Yeah.
Oh, we even got music on that too. That's dope. JB, you want to close us out with the last shout outs? I'm done for the weekend. I'll be back on Monday. But who's my guest on Monday? Let me pull my schedule. Yeah. I have a guest.
That is. Do you have a guest for Monday?
Oh no, I don't. I have Rachel Blevins, another great international journalist from Sputnik Radio. She joined Tuesday. I think I may do a solo stream on Monday or Wednesday. It's been a while since I did a solo stream, I'm gonna do that here very soon. So I'll be back on either Monday or Tuesday. I'll let you guys know. Make sure you guys follow my ex. JB, I'll let you close us out. All right. Have a good weekend, my friends.
All right, cool. Have a good one. Thank you very much for sticking around. Just to let you guys know, this Tuesday, I will be in Tampa, Florida. I will be there in supporting the African People's Socialist Party, the Uhuru Movement, the Uhuru 3. We have Chairman Omali Yeshitela, Jesse Neville, and Penny Hess that are being indicted by the Justice Department unjustly. So I will be there in Tampa, Florida to cover that on the ground, as well as speak to the supporters that'll be there. So that will be on my channel. So if you guys would like to, you guys can also tune into that. Also, just let you guys know, I will see you guys on Sunday for the JB show. So you guys can tune into that. You guys will see me there. Just tune in. Also on my channel, I also do readings of books. So I'll be doing the readings of books. I read books. Well, I might as well get them out here. I read books like The Will to Change by Bell Hooks, and then Margaret Kimberly's Prejudicial, Black America and the Presidents. And then I also read Of Water in the Spirit, Ritual Magic and Initiation in the Life of an African Shaman by Melodoma Patrice Somé. So I also try to read as much books and theory to learn on my channel as well. I'm also going over the ballot initiatives for Florida. So I just covered ballot initiative Amendment 4. I will be talking about that I'll be talking about Amendment 5 on Tuesday as well. We're going to be covering that. And so we're covering all the ballot initiatives in Florida because that's also really important. So thank you very much. Namak says a Palestinian man was hung from a tree in Belgium. Thank you very much for letting me know, Namak. I appreciate it. And this is why we have to talk about the things that we talk about. Yeah. We got to focus on liberation, y'all. But yes, so I would be seeing you guys next time. Take care. Going to be heading on out, and we're going to try to get them back on to ask more of these questions. Thank you so very much. People are calling me while in the middle of streaming. Rude. Anywho, thank you so very much. And also, by the way, Roger, I saw your comments. Please make sure to write those down so that when we have her back on, I can get to those because I really wanted to get to those too. So if you're still watching. All right. So anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I just want to give a big shout out to all the patrons on Patreon. Without you guys, we would not be able to do this work. You guys make this happen. And yeah, you guys take care. Have yourself a great day. And thank you so much for tuning in. Oh, and by the way, just to let you guys know, we are also on we're on Substack at revolutionaryblackout.substack.com. That gives you email notifications whenever we go live or upload clips. And then if you have any email inquiries, then you guys can go to revolutionaryblackout@outlook.com. So that's how you can reach us. Thank you very much to everybody. Now I can head on out. Thanks to all the patrons on Patreon and for all your support. You guys have yourself a great day. Take care.